So before we get into my playoff predictions, I just want to show you my preseason playoff predictions, just to show you what I was thinking of at the time. I had Eric Jones, Kyle Larson, Ryan Newman, and Jimmy Johnson in the playoffs. Of course, Ryan Newman got injured, Kyle Larson got suspended, and Eric Jones just fell apart, and Jimmy Johnson, he looked like he was gonna make it in the playoffs until that late crash at Daytona. Austin Dillon, Matt DiBenedetto, Eric Almirola, and Cole Custer made the playoffs in their place, so that means that I got 75% of the grid right, 12 out of 16 drivers right. So with that being said, let's get on to the video. So here we go, 2020 NASCAR Cup Series playoff predictions. To be honest with you, these are gonna be the hardest playoffs to predict, especially in the earlier rounds, because I believe that almost everybody in this playoff grid has a chance to make it at least to round of 12. The only driver that I don't see making it out of the round of 16 is Cole Custer. But outside of him, everybody else has a chance to make it at least to the round of 12. So let's start without further ado. Round of 16, Darlington, Richmond, and Bristol. As I said earlier, Cole Custer is out. He is the only guy that I don't think is gonna make it out of the round of 16. The other guy I also have eliminated here is Matt DiBenedetto. DiBenedetto has a really good track record at short tracks, especially at Bristol, where he almost won the night race there last year. So he could honestly shock the world and win and get to the round of 12, and I hope he does, but I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening for some odd reason. I don't think it will, because DiBenedetto has really gotten into it's entering the playoffs on a trending downwards. He hasn't really been finishing good in the last couple of races before the playoffs, and it took Jimmy Johnson wrecking out for him to make the playoffs, when you think about it. And even then, he only finished 5 points ahead of him. So, while I think that DiBenedetto can shock the world and make it to round of 12, chances are he won't, and he'll be eliminated here. I also have Austin Dillon eliminated. The thing with Austin Dillon is that this 2020 season is reminding me a lot of his 2016 season, where he almost made it to round of 8, but he lost due to a tiebreaker. While I think Austin Dillon can make it to round of 8 and shock everybody, more often than not, he just falls apart in the playoffs. When you think he's gonna make it far and surprise everybody, he just doesn't. And yeah, I know he want to win at Texas. I know he's been more consistent, but unless he proves to me that he is performing at his 2016 level, that 2016 Austin Dillon has returned, I don't see it making it past the round of 16, honestly. Now, Darlington is a pretty good short track for him. Bristol and Richmond. Short tracks really do good are generally good for Austin Dillon. He usually runs well there at short tracks, so he could make it past the round of 16. But past round of 12, I don't think so. But my prediction is that Austin Dillon will be eliminated in the round of 16. And for my final driver that's gonna be eliminated in this round, and looking at one of the Hendrick guys, either Bowman or Byron. Now, Byron was inconsistent, up and down, all season long. At least until he scored at top 5 at Dover and that win at Daytona. Since then, he's got a bit of momentum entering the playoffs. Bowman is a complete opposite. He started off the season hot, and then he cooled off. I know he got that top 5 at Dover, but he entered the playoffs with basically less momentum than Byron. And while I know that Bowman has made it to at least to the round of 12 every season he's been in the playoffs, when you compare him to Byron basically has more momentum than Bowman, and I think that's gonna make the difference for him. I think that Bowman is gonna be eliminated in the round of 16. Now I could be wrong, and Byron could make it, and Byron could be eliminated in place of Bowman, but my prediction is that one of the Hendrick guys will be eliminated in the round of 16. Either Bowman or Byron, I don't know who it is. So moving on to round of 12, Las Vegas, Talladega, and the Charlotte Roval. Speaking of Will and Byron, this is where the trip ends for him. I don't think the momentum's gonna carry over that much when he's been such an inconsistent driver this season. I know he got the win at Daytona, but that can carry over so much. That can carry you so long. Bowyer is also out of the playoffs. And this is the thing with Bowyer. Bowyer has been quietly surging this past couple of weeks. With scoring a few, he's got a little nice top 10 streak going on. With that being said, however, Bowyer doesn't have enough playoff points to where I can say that he's gonna make it to the round of 8. And this is the thing. In the round of 12, playoff points are going to start to matter. And if you don't have enough playoff points, all it takes is just a bad race for you to be put in a hole. And even then, you don't need to have a bad race to be put in a hole. Even if you finish in the top 10, you can be put in a hole simply because you can still fall in a hole simply because you don't have enough playoff points or enough stage points. That's just how it is. Now, speaking of somebody that gets a lot of top 10s but doesn't have enough playoff points, Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch last year had an abysmal playoff. He got eliminated in the first round after a blown tire at Las Vegas put him in a hole that he could never recover from. And this season, while he has been a bit more consistent, I would say, I'm still gonna say that he's having a worse season than last year because he hasn't won a race and he doesn't have as many stage points or playoff points as last year. So the thing with Kurt Busch is consistency can only get you so far. And Las Vegas and the Charlotte Roval are two tracks that were in the round of 16 last year that are in the round of 12 this year. So this really doesn't help Kurt Busch's case either. So I'm sorry to say, but Kurt Busch is gonna be eliminated in the round of 12. That's what I'm saying. And for the final driver in the round of 12, I'm looking at 3 guys. I'm looking at Eric Almirola, Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Busch. Now, Blaney is good in the round of 12 tracks. He's won at Talladega and the Charlotte Roval, and Las Vegas is one of his better 1.5 mile tracks. He almost won there in the spring. Almirola has been the best winless driver this season. He got a streak of 9 straight top 10s, which included 5 straight top 5s in the summer. He got hot during the summer, so chances are he could get into the hot streak in the playoffs. But Kyle Busch, man, Las Vegas, Talladega, and the Charlotte Roval are 3 of Kyle Busch's worst tracks. And this is what I think will make the main difference. Especially considering that he's been winless in the playoffs, he doesn't have enough stage points, enough playoff points, and especially considering his inconsistency and the fact that the lack of practice and qualifying has been hurting him. Of course, I think he's gonna turn it up a bit during the playoffs, but by the by the looks of it, Kyle Busch is a run of 12 driver when you look at it. And I'm sorry to say, but I got the defending series champion. I think the defending series champion is gonna be eliminated in round of 12. So we got 8 drivers left heading into Kansas, Texas, and Martinsville. Immediately, I'm gonna be eliminating Aric Almirola because while he is consistent, again, if playoff points matter in the round of 12, playoff points are everything in the round of 8. And while Almirola is consistent, if you don't score playoff points, if you don't score a win, chances are you'll be eliminated. It doesn't matter if you finish in the top 5 in every race. You're gonna have to get lucky with other drivers suffering from struggles. And with 2 of the 4 spots basically locked up heading into Phoenix, those chances grow slimmer. Ryan Blaney. This is also where I think where Ryan Blaney's playoff run ends. Ryan Blaney is an interesting driver because I originally had Ryan Blaney out in the round of 12. The only reason I got him making it this far is because the round of 12 has some really good tracks for him. If it wasn't for that, I would have Kyle Busch in the round of 8 over Blaney. But the thing is, Blaney has more playoff points than Kyle Busch, and he also has the advantage with the better tracks in the round of 12 over Kyle Busch. So with that being said, I believe that Ryan Blaney will make it to round of 8, however weird that sounds, because Ryan Blaney hasn't looked like a round of 8 driver to me. But we have seen Ryan Blaney speed. We have seen Ryan Blaney show speed several times. The problem is him closing out the deal, whether it be because of bad luck or the rare self-inflicted injury. It's been mostly bad luck, of course, but for one reason or another, Ryan Blaney hasn't been able to close out races. And the one race he won at Talladega, it was a photo finish. Imagine if he didn't win that race at Talladega. He would have lost those 5 playoff points, and that could have possibly made the difference between him being eliminated in the round of 12 and making it to round of 8. But in conclusion, I think that Blaney is going to. In conclusion, though, I think Blaney is going to put a great. Is going to put on a deep playoff run. I think the abundance of playoff points compared to his competition is going to be a big advantage for him, and I believe that's going to carry him over to round of 8. Could he make a run at Phoenix? I don't think so, but round of 8 is honestly a really great accomplishment for him, considering that he's got a new crew chief. Another driver that I don't think is going to make it to the championship 4 because of the lack of playoff points is Joe Logano. Now, Logano is pretty interesting. He won 2 of the first 4 races, and he established himself as an early championship contender before the lockdown. Ever since NASCAR restarted from the lockdown, he has scored in 22 races. He has scored 4 top 5s and 12 top 10s. And those are Aric Almirola type numbers. And honestly, to be honest with you, those are not championship contender type numbers. Now, we all know Logano can turn it up in the playoffs, especially in the round of 8. He can get a clutch win at Martinsville and make it over to the championship round. However, what if he doesn't? What if Joe Logano doesn't? He's gonna have to point his way in, and that's gonna be really hard because the lack of playoff points has historically been Joey Logano's Achilles heel, especially in the round of 8. If he doesn't win in the round of 8, then chances are he's gonna get eliminated because of the lack of playoff points compared to his competition. So in other words, Logano has to go big or go home. And I think that the lockdown, that no practice, no qualifying, Joe Logano is another one of those drivers that has been affected a lot by the no practice, no qualifying rule. So I don't think Logano's gonna make it to Phoenix either. And so we go. We have one final driver before we know who my championship 4 will be. It's not gonna be Harvick. It's not gonna be Hamlin. Those two guys pretty much have been the class of the field all season long. They're pretty much safe bets to Phoenix. Truex is in a hot streak. It's in a very hot streak entering the playoffs, and I believe he's gonna turn it up like he did last year. He's gonna win a race or two, so I believe he's safe as well. I'm looking at Keselowski or Elliott. It comes down to Keselowski or Elliott for the final spot. And as much as Keselowski has struggled the past couple of years to make it out of the round of 12, I think this is the year that Keselowski finally makes it not only out of the round of 12, but he makes it all the way to the finale. And here's the reason why. He's got Jeremy Bullins, a new crew chief that has basically rejuvenated him. He's also drawing a Mustang, which, if you didn't know, Team Penske has got the Mustang figured out. They were the first 4 teams to figure out the Mustang immediately. I remember in 2019 they were for a moment the best 4 team, at least until Kevin Harvick and Stewart-Haas Racing caught up to them in the second half of the season. Now, the Chevrolet Camaro has made some strides over the years. However, they're still miles behind the Ford Mustang and the Toyota Camry. Add to that the fact that Chase Elliott doesn't have enough playoff points in comparison to Brad Keselowski. And add to that the fact that Alan Gustafson just makes the worst calls at the worst possible moments. And I got Chase Elliott eliminated in round of 8. And the championship 4. This leaves us with Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, and Martin Truex Jr. as my championship 4 heading into Phoenix. Now, who's gonna be the champion out of these 4? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It's gonna come down to Harvick and Hamlin, because Phoenix is one of their best tracks for these two. Not so much for Keselowski and Truex, and not just because of that, because these two, like I said before, they have been the class of the field all season long. The same story of this season will repeat itself. It's gonna be Harvick and Hamlin. And the rest of the field is all witness to the battle. Harvick versus Hamlin is bringing me shades of Gordon versus Martin in 1998, in the sense that it's a champion fighting against a driver that hasn't won a championship. Of course, the champion being Kevin Harvick, and the driver that has not won a championship yet being Denny Hamlin. Now, of course, while I believe that Hamlin has been good, I believe that Harvick has been one step ahead of him all season long. And this is what I believe will make the difference in the end. And this is why I believe that Kevin Harvick will be the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series champion. Now, do I want Denny Hamlin to win? Absolutely. I want Hamlin to win more than Harvick, because, I mean, it's about time Hamlin wins a championship. However, to that I say, look at all that Kevin Harvick has done over the course of his Cup Series career. He's got 56 career wins, and yet he only has 1 championship to go with it. Like, What type of driver? What type of driver wins 56 races but he only has one championship? You're gonna be a multi-time champion, dude. And honestly, this is the thing with the player. This is what the players have done to. This is what the playoffs have done to Kevin Harvick's career. Because if the playoffs didn't exist, Kevin Harvick will be on his way to winning his 4th championship in 11 years. And I'm gonna say this, if Kevin Harvick doesn't win the championship this year, he's gonna go down as one of the most underrated NASCAR drivers of all time. So many wins, it's gonna end with 60 career wins and only one championship. Imagine that, just imagine that. But well, anyways, this is my 2020 NASCAR Cup Series playoff predictions. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified about future uploads. And until next time, peace out.